created a first-time home buyers program for my husband and I. So the year is 2027, and we have been married for 2 years, living in an apartment for 2 years, and we were tired of renting. So we signed a 6-month renewal lease, and we began our house hunting process. And our budget was not large at all. There were way more buyers in the market than there were available homes. Homes were being placed on the market, one day, and then they would have an offer same day. So then boom. And I distinctly recall, like, some of the houses, it was like one day there was 4 houses available. By the end of the day, there was 1 house available. So that kind of deal. That's how fast it was. And this is happening pre-COVID. So interesting. But so we had toured, and at this point we have about 3 months left on our lease of house hunting. And anybody know about house hunting? Is super extremely frustrating, because you know what you're looking for, but you can't find what you're looking for, because you also can't afford what you're looking for. So that was one of the things on my end. My husband was like, listen, we could just get this house. We need to get in this house, and we will just, move out of this apartment. So we toured our first home. So that's the preface. We toured our first home, and it was unfinished. When I say unfinished, like no flooring. Well, the flooring was covered, but no carpet. The paint on the walls hadn't been selected. Light fixtures weren't installed. Countertops weren't in. So we really couldn't see, like, everything of what it was going to look out like. I don't even believe the cabinets were in there. And so we were like, okay, no, we don't want it. It was a little bit more house than what we had anticipated for ourselves too. We just wanted a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, ranch, and we were just going to be fine. We knew we probably wouldn't get a garage based upon our, budget. And this house had all those things. It was 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath, and a garage. You just out house hunting. We were just out looking around on our own without our realtor at the time. So we were like, no, it's okay. So then July rolls around, and our realtor, he's like, hey, I want you to come look at this house. And I think, it'd be a great fit. And so he sends us the address. We didn't even see the listing. He sends us the address. And I remember telling my husband, I said, I think this is a house that we've already looked at before, but, let's just go, see what it looks like. And at this point in July, everything was done pretty much except for the paint on the walls. So we're walking in there, and we can see, we can actually see the floors. The floors were no longer covered. The carpet was installed. Countertops were in. The cabinets, all those things were already done. And so we were like, okay, we like it. And we were ready to put an offer in. The funny thing about this house, and God is just so amazing, is that the house had been on the market for 3 months. And rewind back to what I said, houses were flying off the market. So for this house to have stayed hidden for at least 3 months, and we were down to, it was July, so we had until the end of August to be, move out of our apartment, was just God in himself, and so that was just so interesting. So anyway, we placed the offer, we put an offer in, and it was lower than what they were asking for. And we also asked them to cover half of the closing costs, because closing costs was a big thing for us. And we were like, if there's any way that they can help us with the closing costs, this would just be a huge blessing. And our realtor was like, no, we should not submit an offer like that. You do not want to do that. It wasn't drastically lower, so I don't want anybody to think it was just like 10 grand lower. It wasn't, but it was lower. And my husband said, no, you work for us, submit the offer. And mind you, I'm like, no, we shouldn't do that. Are they going to be offended? My husband was like, least they can say is no. So our realtor submitted the offer, and the next day, we received our, yes, they accepted your offer. And I was blown away. But now my nerves from looking for the right home and trying to do all that house hunting shifted to, this was a little bit more closing costs than we anticipated. And I think it was probably like 4 grand more, 4 or 5 grand more than what we wanted to spend, because now, you get the new house, you're ready to decorate, you're ready to buy the furniture, do all the things. And so I was like, okay, that's going to cut into what I want to do once we close on this place, right? And So I said, okay. And so when I tell you I was so nervous and I was just like, I don't know about it. And I remember turning to my husband and I'm like, maybe we should just sign another, just renew our lease here at the apartment complex. And he was like, no way are we doing that. We are not doing that. We are moving forward. This is what we're doing. And so we submitted the offer. We go back to our lender and we're like, hey, we submitted an offer on this home. It's new construction. And she was like, okay, cool. All right. And you know how I'm having this hesitant? I was nervous. I was so nervous because I'm like, what are you talking about? And she was like, oh, well, I just want to tell you that today is the first day and you guys are the first ones to be a part of this first time homebuyer program. And the title of it is, if you can dream it, you can own it. Like, we were, so I was just like, oh, okay. She was like, well, I just want to let you know what that means for you is that, we're paying half of your closing costs. Mind you, go back to our offer. Our seller was already paying half of the closing costs. We had to come up with the other half, right? Then we reach out to our lender and our lender was like, we're going to pay your closing costs. So when I tell you, y'all, God is just so amazing. And so that I'm still blown away. We're in our second home now, but I'm still blown away at what God does, because the simple fact of that he will go into a bank and create a whole program. If something is meant for you, it is meant for you to have it, and God will move mountains to make sure that it belongs to you and you get what you need. And when I tell you what, I'm so excited about that house and I miss that house so much, but whatever God blesses you with will always be a blessing. It will always be a blessing. Years later, we were able to sell that home for twice the amount. Pause. I had to pause on that because just what I said, that's exactly what ended up happening for us. And it's just been an amazing journey with Jesus Christ. Because I don't even want to just stick there with God. But with Jesus Christ, he will blow your mind. So literally, if you can dream it, you can own it. Because that was the problem. That was the name of the program. If you can dream it, you can own it. My husband and I, Brian and I, we were the first ones, and God moved. So whatever you up against, you take those worries, you ball them up, you give them over to God, because he is moving on our behalf.